In the sleepy town of Whispering Pines, where perfectly trimmed hedges and matching mailboxes were the law of the land, nobody expected a Tuesday morning to turn into a wildfire of chaos. But that's exactly what happened when Carl Jenkins, the Homeowners Association's self-appointed guardian of order, decided to play hero. Carl wasn't a cop, though he strutted around like one, his khaki vest stitched with a shiny HOA badge and pockets stuffed with confiscated wind chimes. To him, the Whispering Pines Covenant was the Bible, and he was its preacher, armed with a laminated rulebook and a zero-tolerance policy for road petunias. It all started with a tipsome, anonymous busybody whining about Cabin 19B. Overgrown roses, maybe a stray cat or two, and rocks that didn't match the approved gravel shade. Carl didn't ask questions. He printed the complaint, circled it in red, and revved his HOA golf cart like he was heading into battle. The sun was barely peeking through the pines, mist curling around the trees, when he pulled up to the cabin. It looked empty, locked tight, just like the record said. That should have been his first clue. The second was the faint strum of a classic rock tune leaking through the walls. The third? A whiff of bacon and gunpowder that hit him as he stepped onto the porch. But Carl, bless his stubborn heart, wasn't one for clues. He knocked once, waited a heartbeat, then pulled out his bolt cutters like he was storming a cartel hideout. The lock snapped, the door creaked open, and Carl stepped inside. Clipboard ready, citation half-written. The dim light made him squint, but there, in the corner, was a shirtless giant of a man, muscles gleaming with gun oil, hunched over a sniper rifle like he was performing surgery. Sheriff Hank Grayson. Carl froze, his pen hovering midair as Hank's wild eyes locked onto him. "Freeze!" Hank bellowed, biscuit crumbs flying, the rifle snapping up on instinct. What happened next would fuel Barstool stories and shaky YouTube edits for years. Carl yelped, slipped on a stray boot, and crashed into a shelf, sending a jar of moonshine exploding across the floor. Glass flew, liquor sprayed, and Carl scrambled backward, screaming like a kid who'd seen a spider. Hank, now wielding the rifle like a baseball bat, roared, "What in the hell, Jenkins?" Carl, heart hammering, stammered, "Non-compliant vegetation." Hank's face twisted. "Vegetation? You broke into my damn operation, you badge-happy lunatic." If that had been the end of it, maybe Whispering Pines could have laughed it off. But a tiny red light blinked in the Cornera motion sensor camera, catching every second. By lunch, the footage was at 50,000 VYUs. By afternoon, someone slapped techno music over it, and it went VY-RAL. By evening, news vans were parked outside, grilling Carl while Hank loomed in the background, eyes sharp as a hawk's. Carl, sporting a bandage and a moonshine-stained shirt, told the reporter, "Cabin 19B a blight. Unoccupied, VY Olating subsection 3A. The reporter blinked. "You cut the lock." For begonias. Behind the scenes, things were uglier. The HOA board, led by Evelyn Marsha-woman with a smile like porcelain and a heart like a snake pit, was in full panic. Evelyn called an emergency meeting, her voice slicing through the room like a blade. "We're trending under the sniper cabin," she snapped, glaring at Carl. "We're not a joke. We're the stewards of this town's elegance." Carl tried to defend himself, clutching a folder of bylaws, but Evelyn's raised eyebrow shut him up. Then Sarah, the HOA secretary, dropped a bomb. She slid a folder across the table. "The complaint about 19B? And signed. Filed through our secure portal. Only board members have access." The room went still. Someone had set Carl up. Whispers spread faster than a VY Deo. Why was Hank hiding in that cabin? Why was there a classified case file under his cot? Why did he have burner phones and a map with half the town's homes marked in red? Carl, now sporting sunglasses to hide his nerves, felt the ground shift. He wasn't just a pawn, he was a target. That night, Sarah slipped into his garage office, tossing another folder onto his desk. "Cabin 19B isn't Hank's," she said. "It's a safe house, tied to a shell company. And it's not the only one." The paper showed 3 more cabins, all hidden under fake ownerships, all linked to HOA board members. Carl's head spun. The HOA wasn't just about lawn flamingos, it was a front. Money laundering, property scams, maybe worse. And Hank, he wasn't dirty. He was onto something, and someone wanted him discredited. Sarah handed Carl a blueprint of the HOA center, a red circle marking a basement nobody knew existed. "Finish what you started," she said. At 3:17 a.m., Carl was in an alley, flashlight in his teeth, crowbar in hand, feeling like a conspiracy podcast host. He crept into the archive room, yanked aside a rug, and found a rusted trapdoor. The air below was cold, stale like a tomb. A flickering bulb lit a hallway to a keypad-locked door. Sarah's code worked. Inside was no storage room, it was a surveillance hub. Monitors showed grainy feeds of neighbors' homes, garages, yards. Files littered a table, one labeled Operation Driftwood. Carl opened it. Phone transcripts, surveillance notes, and a photo. Hank with a federal agent, presumed dead, and Evelyn Marsh in the background, her floral scarf unmistakable. A creak above. A monitor showed a figure upstairs, flashlight sweeping. Not security, the HOA didn't have any. Carl grabbed the Driftwood file, bolted through a Sayre VYC tunnel, and emerged by the old public pool, heart pounding. Back in his garage, Sarah was waiting, sipping coffee like she hadn't just flipped his world. "Mildred's running a machine," she said. "Surveillance, blackmail, forcing property sales. Hank's their target." She pointed to a ledger entry, a meeting in 2 nights at the community. Hank, meanwhile, was at the lake, talking to a man in a cheap suit. "She's MOVYing," the man said. Hank lit a cigarette. "I've been ready since she killed my partner." His journal, hidden in the cabin, told a story older than Carl knew. His father, a deputy, had chased the same shadows, Leah VYing a list of names, Evelyn's among them. At the diner, Carl and Sarah found Hank, pie untouched. "We know about the shell companies," Sarah said. "The garden's the final move." Hank leaned back. "It's not in 2 days. It's tonight. She runs 2 clocks. They had hours." The plan was shaky. Hank would confront Evelyn at the HOA center while Carl and Sarah disabled the server in the basement. At 10 p.m., Hank strolled in like he owned the place. Carl and Sarah slipped through the maintenance hall, hearts racing. Evelyn was in her office, sipping wine, unfazed. "I figured it'd be you," she said to Hank. "You can't stop it," she added, smiling. Downstairs, Sarah started the data dump, the progress bar crawling. Then Evelyn hit a button. Alarms blared, shutters slammed, locking them in. A board member, Greg, stepped from the shadows, gun shaking in his hand. "You're done," Evelyn said to Hank. The lights cut out. Carl heard Sarah's fingers still typing. The transfer finished. They grabbed the drive and bolted for the tunnel as a camera swiveled toward them. Upstairs, Hank eyed Greg. "She'll cut you loose," he said. Greg wavered. Then windows shattered. Smoke poured in, and deputies stormed the building. Evelyn hit another button, but Hank dodged a trapdoor. She was tackled, Greg's gun kicked away. Carl and Sarah burst out by the pool, while VYing the drive at a deputy. "We're with Hank." In the command van, the drive revealed everything. Surveillance logs, financial records, a hit list targeting half the town's original families. Hank addressed the crowd outside. "The HOA suspended. Report threats. Come forward." The town erupted. Some cheered, some wept. That night, Carl sat with Hank at cabin 19B, bruises aching. "Is it over?" Carl asked. Hank shook his head. "My dad died chasing this. It's deep." The trial was quick. Evelyn was guilty on all counts: fraud, racketeering, conspiracy. The HOA was dissolved, bylaws burned in a town barbecue. Carl, once a joke, was now a hero. He ran for mayor, winning with buttons reading, "No HOA, just CJ." Hank moved into 19B, starting a security firm. Sarah turned the HOA center into a library. But shadows lingered. A man in a gray suit watched the VY Tory party. A postcard arrived at 19B. "Driftwood never sinks." Carl locked his windows tighter. Whispering Pines was free, but the woods still whispered. Carl walked their edge, listening, knowing some roots ran too deep to pull. On the cabin porch, he and Hank sat, rifles nearby, waiting for the next story to break. Because in this town, the HOA was gone, but the shadows were just waking up. What do you think? Did Carl stumble into heroism or just get lucky? Is Hank a SAVY or hiding his own secrets? And that postcard, who sent it? And what's Driftwood really hiding? Drop your thoughts below, hit like if you're hooked, and subscribe for more stories that'll keep you guessing.